Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the He Lives podcast. The genius of working with animals is they are everywhere and they are constantly giving us messages, even when we are scrolling on social media, listening to songs, watching movies. All the clues are there, we just have to listen. And this podcast will help you decode them. Today, I channel the jaguar, known as one of the only animals in the world to journey with psychoactive plants in the jungle. So it's an extremely unique and incredible animal. And just remember, this behavior is mirrored through our own human behavior. As per episode 17, Loch Ness Monster, this was extremely challenging to channel. I really wanted to get this right. And so I had to grieve through the blockages and pain in the story. I had to go as far as writing what my ego wanted to for me to hear so that I could grieve what had happened, to get the horrible details out of the way so that I didn't have to tell that story because it's quite graphic. So I have spared you the horrible details. But it took me 3 days to do this one when normally I can do it in a day. But this is the power and the integrity and reverence that is needed to work with this kind of power because the Jaguar is, well, it's about shamanism. And so this has been one of my most challenging ones to channel. So be ready for a deep and fantastic story. So because it is so deep and fantastic, this one is a bit longer. But you'll notice that this story is kind of a story of ages. You'll notice a theme that repeats throughout history, and this is one of the origins of why this repeats through history, through karma and Akashic histories, and all of that's coming to an end. So please stick around for the discussion to learn more about that. And now let's really dive in. So I welcome my ancestors now. So I welcome the spirit of the Jaguar. He lives straight from the heart. I am outstanding. I bet you did not expect me to say that. But would you expect anything less from a cat? I am rare, I am bold, I am brave, and above all, I am magical. But my magic came at an enormous price, the price of freedom. I have had to hide my magic and power because my freedom was limited. Hunted and chased out of tribes of men as an outcast because of my integrity of protecting this sacred worship of love. My mysterious golden eyes allow me to gaze into your soul. Do not be afraid. I am here to support your awakening. So relax and receive the magic of my story. I am the seeker and destroyer. I am the storm and the lightning. I am the beauty hidden in everything you fear, for I am power, I am love. I am the edge walker. I walk between all realms because I have the keys and access to the hidden realms of love. And it is my job to protect those realms with my love. I am the sole survivor of a hidden race of beings that lived long ago, and today I share my story. I am here to tell you a story like no other, a story that will guide you into the depths of your soul. But do not be afraid of the darkness, for it is my ally, friend, and confidant. I could not live without the darkness, because this is where the greatest stories are found. Are you brave enough to journey with me? Once upon a time, there was a man called Arkayana who lived in the hidden mountain tribes of the Arakama. He was never a lonely man because he had his whole family and tribe around him to protect him. He was a master of disguise and took great pleasure in scaring his friends and family to their great surprise, because nothing excites him more than surprising people with his love. Laughter would follow him around in his heart as he was always on the prowl to see who he could pleasure with his splendor and action. Of all the villagers, he held a secret and was known as the Promised One. the one who held the gene keys of humanity's ascension. He had no idea, of course. They were the hidden gene keys inside him, a codex that one day would bring stillness and harmony to all life on Earth. This awareness was kept secret from him to protect him, to remove any pressure, expectation, or load, but still he always had an underlying feeling that something was being held from him. He was still in his adolescent years of initiation, not yet ready to understand his role within the tribe as a man, but his initiations were tougher than the rest of the tribe because he had to be prepared for his greater destiny of being the promised one, to become the ultimate shaman, the great prowler of love. The majority of his youth was spent with one man, the tribal guardian, the magician, and shaman known as Falcon. He was like a father to him, and little did Arkayana know he was being initiated into a similar position, where one day he would have to take the mantle of shaman and guardian of not just the tribe, but of all of humanity. Even unknowing to his destiny, Arkayana was a natural, because he found it so much fun. He would come to see Fantun each day to learn, explore, and play in the realms of magic. They would spend hours through morning and night learning about dreamwalking, potions, elixirs, spells, and allied realms that existed alongside us full of unknown magic. Falcon would put Arkayana through his paces, and then together, as a reward, Falcon would take him on fantastic voyages into other dimensions and realms. He loved to speak to the elves, the dragons, and unicorns, and so much more. Falcon was an incredible seer and scribe, and a strict teacher and mentor. He taught Arkayana the power of integrity, to always act in service to love, to always fight for love, and always surrender to the unknown path of the divine. Falcon was no ordinary shaman. It was his purpose to train Arkayana for his destiny, and he took that seriously. His first and foremost task was to prepare him for the days and lives ahead, and each day he would explore with him the realms of the Akash, teaching about what was needed to truly heal and what to expect in the coming future. A war was coming, and he had to be prepared, so all his wisdom had to be passed on to Arkayana. There were many days when Arkayana would level out the playing field with Falcon, bringing him to a standstill in complete awe. He was a natural. This was because Arkayana was a shamanic genius. He picked up what was taught to him instantly and would envision it grander, brandishing his spells with his own coding of incredible magic, in complete service and surrender to love. He was something which had never been witnessed. He was special. Arkayana's talent came from his explicit devotion to the joy of life. He loved to dance, he loved to explore, to go on adventures and talk to the animals. He had a golden heart with golden hair and eyes to match, making him stand out like an outcast in the tribe. Of course, he had no idea that he stood out, but sometimes he would ask Falcon why people stared at him, and he would reply, "Because you are special, and one day you will realize that." It was cryptic enough that Arkayana would ask lots of questions, but Falcon would not entertain any folly, and always brought him back to the task at hand. These were his teachings of integrity and embracing the unknown, for one day all the answers would come to him through embracing his inner power. There were many in the village who disliked Arkayana, jealous of his power, casting judgments on him that he did not deserve the power, exposing their own darkness. Falcon was fully aware, but knew Arkayana's destiny would be to understand and counteract and heal these judgments. Many of the tribal leaders, including his parents, believed he should be protected, and he was. But their influence and fear extended to try and control him, to keep him within the confines of the village. But Arkayana was not one to be confined, and always managed to escape, given enough time. It wasn't long until his power began to grow further and stronger with the teachings he was learning. With each lesson, his love grew. The more it grew, the more he expressed his joy for life, jumping around the village. Nothing could stop him from enjoying his day, trying to make people smile and laugh with his favorite pastime. He became loved by those who respected him, but to the ones that hated him, they became even more jealous, and it wasn't long until they planned to betray him. There was a gang in the village, and in that gang was one of Arkayana's old friends. His name was Marnock. Marnock and Ayakayana were friends when they were younger, until he was denied the role of initiation into shamanhood. He became resentful of Ayakayana because of this, as he believed he was better. Over time, Marnock became the town mercenary and bully and loved to fight. Many knew of his prowess as a fighter, so many would kneel before him once threatened. However, Ayakayana had always been a great warrior, and fighting Marnock was never an issue for him, because he was faster, stronger, and more cunning. Ayakayana was different, though. He knew that power came from the heart, not from hatred. He had trained to protect those he loved and was not afraid to show it if the moment ever arrived. Marnock knew this, and so would try to put him in many precarious situations to test him. Too many times Ayakayana defied him, so he took steps to remedy that and began to plot a coup. Marnock was power hungry and would do anything for control and status. He tried many times to be initiated into shamanism, but Falcon banned him from the dark arts because he lacked the integrity needed, and so he began to serve in the tribal warrior army so he could learn to fight and kill. As an angry man, Marnock became bitter towards Falcon's judgments of him and plotted to get his revenge by taking the life of his favourite student, Arkayana. It wasn't long before Marnock began to fight in the city's private army and was sent to war. He saw many atrocities, and he brought the scars back with him. He had seen the severity of war, and it had taken his spirit. He had become addicted to the idea of war, and he began inflicting his pain onto others. Over the years, rumours began to surface of Marnock's reputation in battle. Horrible stories of war crimes inflicted on innocent people, but none would dare speak against him. During his war crusade, he joined a priesthood from a neighbouring tribe, a cult. They held a deep hatred towards their own true nature and to the nature of shamans. They pointed the finger at Falcon, and when they got scent of Marnock's hatred for Falcon, they knew they could use him and manipulate him to bring their plan to fruition. They desired to take the power of shamanism for their own gain and began in their own wars and crusades to hunt down all the shamans, to sacrifice them, and build their cults and build their own castles of worship. This is the story of how they desecrated the sacred heritage of our temples and our shamanistic practices, all in the name of power. On the day of his final raid, Marnock had gathered a large following and a high rank in the army. After joining the priesthood, Marnock knew he could get his revenge on Falcon and plotted the takeover. He used his influence to start making changes in the village and soon the city. He quickly grew to a greater prominence in the city and became captain of the guard. His reputation began to surface in the city boundaries, tales of rape and murder in his station. When word of this got to Falcon, he sat in ceremony that evening and was shown the future of what was to pass. The next morning, he put out an urgent message to the fellow warriors of the tribe to prepare for battle. But it was too late. Marnock had too many on his side. He already had a plot to overthrow the kingdom, and he was making his moves. The warriors he had contacted were sent to prepare in secret, and a messenger would be sent to the tribal leaders to warn them. Falcon was the most respected elder in all the cities, and he had sent out messages and guides across the land to seek for help and to ask them to prepare. However, it was not long until one of the warrior riders' messages was intercepted. The rider was caught and killed by Marnock's forces for the information he was holding. Knowing what Falcon had done, Marnock headed out with his army to seek revenge, to kill Falcon and the village. Marnock was deeply aggrieved by losing the power that Falcon had held from him and would do anything he could do to get his revenge. Falcon quickly sent for Arkayana. He had just come back from his training that day and came willing to listen. "You must flee," said Falcon. "Flee to the river and make your escape before it's too late. Marnock is coming with his army and you must be protected. Do not look back, even when you see the village burning. Take this golden pouch. It is all you need for now. Hold on to it and I will direct you when the time is right." Arkayana held out his hand and received a golden medicine pouch. What is it? He said. It is the timetable to your greatness. It is the stamp of your warriorship. It is your guiding star. Do not lose it, and you shall foresee the future when the time is right. Until then, keep the pouch safe. Now go! Arkayana had learned never to question his teachings because he always spoke the truth. So he ran straight to the river with what he already had with him. Towards the river was his family home, so he ran as fast as he could. That evening, darkness began to fall upon the village. It was early evening and fires had been lit across the village as they were celebrating a holy day. Falcon thought he had delivered the message to the tribal leaders in time to get the people ready, unknowing that the messengers had been spotted and killed, so he had not seen what came next. Many of the families were in their houses in preparation for the ceremonial dance that evening. Marduk and his army awaited until this day, as he knew it was a holy day. So he waited until they were deep in the ceremony, and from the valley that looked over the village, Marduk commanded him to descend upon the village. Once the ceremony had begun, that way they would be caught off guard. It wasn't long before there was a crashing and banging at the gate entrance to the village. Then a rain of fire and arrows fell upon the villages, lighting the houses in the distance, trapping the people. As soon as the villagers saw this, they began to sound the alarm. Children were swept up and mothers ran to the village shelter, while the men went back to their lodging to grab their weapons to fight. Before anyone could muster a thought, another rain of arrows came into the village, but from the opposite end of the village. They had been betrayed by a neighbouring village and were now under attack from both ends of the village. It was the priesthood's cult armies, and it was a massacre. Arkayana made it to his family home, but nobody was home. He ran outside and saw them running towards him. Run, they said. Run, they're coming. His father, his brothers, his friends, and other warriors pushed forward towards the river, whilst holding back the intruders best they could. As Arkayana ran towards the river, everything moved in slow motion for what felt like an eternity, as he turned his head and saw all his friends and family. All stood with their back to Arkayana, holding their weapons, proud to stand for their village, proud to stand and fight for their tribe with passion in their hearts. There was fire burning ragefully in their bellies as well as around them. His brother turned to him and shouted, Arkayana, we are counting on you. You hold the codex of illumination inside you. You are the promised land. You are the promised one. Fight, 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 and never give up. With his hand on his chest and tears in his eyes, his final words were, we are proud of you. Now go and never forget us. Then they charged, screaming, into the oncoming invaders. Everything happened so fast, and at the same time so slowly. And before he knew it, Arkayana was by the river. He could hear his family and friends being slaughtered in battle. He had to make it out. He had to do it for them. He jumped into his canoe with oar in hand and began to paddle as fast as he could in complete disbelief and shock. Wailing and wailing, he travelled down the river as the flames burned behind him in the moonlight. He rowed the whole night with the moonlight guiding him, following the current of the river downstream. After several hours of rowing, the sun began to rise and the adrenaline began to wear off, and the pain began to seep into his heart. He was now far away enough from the village to stop and rest. He came to a muddy bank and pulled his boat to shore and began to snap off branches and leaves to cover the canoe in the bushes. He opened his bag and drank from his flask of water. He was just about to lay down when he heard footsteps coming towards him. He quickly pulled his hunting dagger from his belt and turned to fight, but was met by a woman. She looked like a goddess, but dressed as a warrior. She had purple markings on her face, and her presence was enough to show she meant no harm. He lowered his guard, and she spoke to him in a language he had not heard in a long time. Yonake! It was an ancient language that was not understood through hearing, but through vibration of the heart. It was a deeply ancient language of love, made infamous by the tribes of the Arakama. Translated, it meant, "It's okay, you are safe now." Yobo, Guntaka Han. If you come with me, I will protect you, she said. Knife still in defense, Arkayana replied in her language. Yanakahan, Nukunu. Who are you? What do you want? Yeskeeble, Wakahana, Jukunu, Fare Baskana. We share the same markings of war. Your village was attacked. I know because they attacked mine too, and headed upstream. Weske. Come with me, she said. She knelt on her knees and began to draw in the mud the markings of those who attacked his village, and drew an X over it, grabbed her knife from her belt and stabbed the center with rageful eyes. Yasakanaha. If you come with me, we will fight, she said. With his heart raw and open from the grief of massacre, her words poured into his heart with such force that he passed out and fell to the ground from exhaustion. She knelt next to his side and began to dress his wounds and pack his bags. She dragged him to shore, tipped her canoe onto one side and rolled him inside so he lay on his back. She grabbed his oar and she pushed them away from shore down river. The next morning he awoke in a wicker lodge, not quite remembering what had happened or where he was. He was lying in bed, groggy. His memory slowly crept up on him, and as he remembered, he shot upright immediately and screamed and fell back down to sleep. Voices outside rushed towards the door, and a woman peered inside and shouted in their language to the woman who saved him. He's awake. She came in and sat by his side and spoke slowly to him. You are safe. You are safe. Her words landed again into his heart and tore him open. He began to wail in grief and rage. She called for help as others helped her hold him down so he did not hurt himself further. He screamed and screamed until he passed out again. A fever began to take over him, and so she stayed with him throughout the day and into the night. Using local plants and herbs, she began grinding the ingredients to make a healing elixir to help his fever. By the next morning, he began to come to again. She did not speak until he was strong enough, and instead gestured for him to drink some soup she had made from the local herbs. With tears and despair in his eyes, his lips trembled. He had no words, his grief immeasurable, turning his face in utter dismay. My name is Ain, she said. What has happened to you happened to me. When you are ready, come outside. You are safe here. There are many warriors. Rest now. After a few days of rest and medicine, he hobbled out of his lodge and was greeted with sunshine. He stood up, holding his hand up to cover the sun so he could see, and before his eyes a small tribe of 30-odd women and some newborn children. They looked frozen, some holding baskets, some in mid-conversation, now all of them staring at him. Ayin arrived. Welcome to our humble village. We are few, but we are strong, she said. We are refugees from our own tribes, and you are welcome here. You are the first man, because our men were the first to die. You could tell she was the leader of their tribe just by her stance, but more importantly, by the power of her heart. It was not long until they were preparing for their next fight. How could they reclaim their city? How could they reclaim what was lost? And how could they begin a new cycle of tribe and reclaim it all? They sat and spoke together for many days, plotting a plan, and then it struck him. Arkayana had forgotten amongst all the commotion his golden pouch He had hidden it in a secret compartment inside his oar. My boat, he said. Where is it? I have your oar only, she said. Please bring it to me. I know what to do. When his oar arrived, he cracked open the hidden compartment in his oar, and out fell the golden pouch given to him by Falcon. I must go and meditate now. I must understand what this is. It may hold the answers. He walked back to his abode, lit a candle, and sat. During meditation, he was greeted by the spirit of Falcon, and he spoke. My son, well done. You have survived the onslaught. A lot has happened, and I hold you dear in my heart. But today you must remember. Remember who you are. It is time now. Open the pouch and be guided by the light within. Archayana looks down to the pouch and opens it and pours out the contents into his hand. He looks into his palm and sees he is holding a gift like no other. It is a talisman of love, an ancient relic from a time gone by long ago, a relic of the ages. It was the Stargate key to ascension, and with it Archayana could ascend his limitation to become the greatest warrior the world had ever known. Learn and remember who you are at a soul level, and when the time is right, you shall be bequeathed with the title of Shaman, a title so great that only few have mastered. Your destiny is to master this art and bring it back to the heart of humanity, Falcon said. This gift is only bestowed to you because you are the only one pure enough to hold such power. It is your destiny to behold the magic of creation itself in the palm of your hand. As he looked to his palm, the relic lit up and shot beams of light up his arm into his heart, filling him with coloured light. Then he heard Falcon speak to him through the amulet within. When the time is right, this will be activated within you, and you will experience the gift of ages, the remembrance of mankind as it was meant to be. You are the one, the pure one. You hold the gene keys for the new human, the one they will call the warrior of sacred colors. Now live your life and be free. Seek out justice wherever you see injustice, and I shall be by your side for as long as it takes. Be not wary, it is your destiny. Farewell, my friend, until we speak again. That night they held a shamanic ceremony to welcome him into the tribe. They danced with their medicine, sang their medicine songs, and he received their love as he nursed his deep wounds of grief. His thoughts were changed. He now had a purpose, a divine purpose, and now he must live it. Hello and welcome to the discussion. So, the Jaguar has always been a hot topic in the spiritual community. It represents shamanism and it's known for eating the plants that tribes use in their ayahuasca mixes. In my experience, I've noticed, and I've spoken about this in my channel about the claiming of spirit animals that aren't yours and how dangerous that is. And when I used to sit in ceremony with others in spiritual communities, I learned very quickly how toxic that was. And through the conversations with light-hearted people, a lot of people would try to claim the power of that jaguar, not understanding what its power is, because everybody wants to be a shaman for some reason, not knowing the enormous responsibility and sacrifice that is linked to that. So I absolutely don't recommend that. It really is dangerous. The power of the jaguar is enormous, and its power focuses around integrity because and integrity is the antidote to fear. When integrity manifests within you, nothing can conquer you because integrity essentially is the sword of love. It's the sword of truth. And truth comes from the heart. And if you are not speaking truth, if you are speaking lies to yourself, that can manifest into the darkness and shadow, as I've said in many times. Each animal, through our own ego, is mirrored to us as a manifestation of the darkness that we haven't purified within our own vessel. Another gift of the Jaguar is the surrender of the unknown. The unknown is what most men struggle with when it comes to this level of power because the shadow of the Jaguar is judgment and control, which is something we see in a toxic patriarchy is probably one of the main weapons that they use to enslave us. This level of surrender into the unknown makes the Jaguar a master edge walker. It surrenders to the trust of love, knowing that the unknown will bring it exactly what it needs at exactly the right time, because it knows love does not abandon love, only fear does. This story that I channeled is a story of the ages. It's only, but it's one that most of the stories have, but this one's a very deep one that touches my heart because, and it was very difficult, as I said at the beginning, because, as I said, the other stories, these are Akashic stories of my own past, something I've repeatedly grieved in healing wounds from my Akash. Sometimes I've grieved so hard that I felt the pressure that it had on my heart. It felt really dangerous. So it's not something to head head into without guidance or experience. This is really serious stuff, really serious healing. And it's taken me years to be able to speak about this. This is also a collective wound that focuses on the truth of the church and how they've destroyed paganism because of its incredible power. Paganism isn't a religion, it's a way of living. If you live by the seasons, you're pagan. Because paganism is it's the seasons. It's the worship of the goddess Gaia. We live on her planet. We live by her rules. That to believe otherwise is control. That is religion. To believe that you have control over love. That that just goes against everything that we are here for. It goes against love. The priests and cults of religions destroyed through genocide the sacred worship to the goddess and creation, and created a false ideology based on a false love outside of us, on control and judgment through their perverted eyes of right and wrong. This is what we have left over today, a handful of real shamans, a ton of imposters and charlatans who wish for that power without doing the work, bypassing the initiations of the heart just so they can say, I'm a shaman. The problem with shamanism is, despite what you've been told, it's not a trick you can learn. It's not an online course. It's a gift, a sacred gift bestowed upon those who have agreed it through soul contract. It's a unique aspect of the hidden DNA that works within every human, yes, but if you have not been contracted by your soul to be chosen as a shaman to represent the goddess as a man or as a woman, then you have no right to say otherwise. Shamans are chosen through spirit, they are taught by spirit, and they act through spirit. On my journey of healing, I never knew anything about shamanism. I only became curious about plant medicine because of its healing properties. I tried so much, I was going through so much pain. So ignorance went in my favor because I had no judgments. I didn't trend to fit into a spiritual tribe. I didn't wear any crystals around my neck or in my bra, not that I wear a bra. I didn't dress in any tie-dye t-shirts or preach that I knew the way. Instead, I went in blind and realized I could see everything. When I first took my journey back in 2019, I met hundreds of people who all smirked and behaved like they had the answers, as if they were leaders, as if they were better. I quickly made the regretful mistakes of putting shamans on a pedestal like most people do, convincing myself that they were more powerful than me. But through those mistakes, I was taken advantage of almost immediately. I was stung and it hurt because I felt humiliated. I'd fallen for narcissism. I started to feel different, though, as if I didn't fit in, and nothing became more starkly clear than when I began to share my journeys with people. And they quickly, I remember in the first one of the first ceremonies I was in, it was such a remarkable ceremony. I saw so many incredible things. I actually saw my future, and a lot of it's come true. And I said to the so-called shaman, there was actually a real shaman there, but there was this guy who was also, just because he was serving medicine, thought that he was a shaman, but he wasn't. He was a charlatan, and he was using that power to sleep with women in the group. Very dangerous, very dangerous. And the next day we had a sharing circle, and quickly I realized that I could see things that others couldn't even imagine were possible. And people started saying, God, I wish I'd seen that. I just was seeing this and that. And I noticed that some people immediately, especially the guy selling medicine, became jealous immediately and tried to belittle and gaslight me. I was so naive back then. I allowed it. I could see spirit animals, gods and goddesses. I could even see through dimensions and into other universes. I mean, it was incredible. I've been into the microverse. I've been so far out that I spoke to the great all. There is no end to creation, and to try and fit it into the logical mind taught me a lesson I would never forget. I'm not in control. I'm not in control of love because I am love. And the more I control love, the more I control myself and prevent my own destiny. And this is the problem with people like that. They want to control that power. They want it for themselves. And by doing so, they belittle their own destiny, their own divine purpose. We each have our own divine purpose, and it's incredible. Every time I tried to make sense of my journeys, I realized I was trying to control my destiny. This was my ego trying to prevent my death, my ego death, slowing my evolution, sabotaging me, delaying me. But eventually, I learned because I knew better. It was a few years into my journey when I started to feel extreme amounts of toxic avoidance, aka narcissism. I became depressed. Suicidal thoughts were normal for me, and the apathy kicked my arse on several occasions. I realized there was something I could not see after all, so I humbly reached out to the universe and asked for a guide. I never pretend or even owned the idea of being a shaman, but the signs just kept being shown to me and shoved down my throat. The problem, however, was my heart was closed. It was blocked. So I didn't know how to work with the medicine. I didn't know how to speak to the medicine. I didn't even know how to understand my journey of healing. So I needed a guide who would help me work and speak to the medicine. And that's when the universe brought me to my twin flame, my partner. She showed me very quickly what true shamanism looked like through the body of the feminine and mentored me into unlocking the power of my heart, to unlock my latent DNA, to unlock my innate through the power of love, not the mind, not logic and control. And eventually, I reached higher and higher levels of ascension. She blew my mind. I mean, she changed my whole reality. I've seen things that just the 99.9% of the population just don't believe. They just don't believe in it. I embodied Christ consciousness, and together we received the blessings one day from Joshua and Mary. They reached out and grabbed our hands together. We even I felt it. And after that, we healed the wounds of divine union through their karmic story and into our own. We started finishing the story of love. It's a collective story. We live through the gods and goddesses, the archetypes, the mythologies, the animals, everything. We are all one. After years of surrender, shadow work, light work, and so much more, my destiny and my divine purpose began to show itself. I was told of the second coming. There's many of us. But my partner and I were the first to commit and fulfill the prophecy of divine union. This is why our channel is called Prophecy Walkers, because it was our soul contracted destiny. We sacrificed everything, and it has been the most difficult and glorious thing simultaneously that has ever happened to us. And yet here I am, still struggling to come out, to be seen, to be heard. It's the 13th of April tomorrow, 2025. It's a secret portal of 1313, because it's 2025 plus the month of 4. You add those together, you get 13. 13 is the number of death. And my podcast will come out at 1313. It is a portal of death so that I may ascend even further into my innate self, soul embodiment, all through the power of shamanism and reverence to the feminine, reverence to life and death. Our frequency as a couple, as man and woman, is so pure and so high that people can't even sense it. And so we haven't been recognized, but we've been guided by spirit to overcome these obstacles, and we aim higher. One day, someone's going to listen to this and they will know every word I speak is true in my integrity, because they will finally see that we are the real deal, here in service to heal the wounds of humanity through our own service in love to ourselves and each other. No more talk of crossing over to new earth and the fifth dimension. We did that in 2021. It's already here. It's already available. The work has to be done. The only thing that is holding it back from people seeing it and believing it is ignorance. And the church is a cult of enormous proportions that has tried to take everything away from us. They are the puppet masters of genocide, but soon they will fall all in the sacrifice of love. They are responsible for so much pain, and they have convinced everyone of otherwise. They are the Antichrist. May all those who worship love stand tall, knowing they too can reclaim their true destiny, their divine purpose, and may the tribe be reborn in the golden eyes of shamanism, integrity, and the unknown. As a man, I have surrendered to the feminine and reverence to the feminine and love. I took my rightful place by her side. I confessed my sins of betrayal. I took responsibility. I accepted her power and reclaimed my own. As a true, pure man, a warrior, a shaman, a king, I humbly accept my destiny and open my arms to true love. It is so. May you find your own destiny. May you accept and find your own true love, for it is the greatest divine gift you could ever be bestowed. Thank you for listening.